The Oakland sky displayed shades of gray that autumn afternoon, with heavy clouds announcing imminent rain. Stephen Curry, star of the Golden State Warriors, was driving his black Range Rover through the familiar streets of the city. He had just left the Chase Center after a particularly exhausting training session. His muscles ached, but his mind was even more occupied with strategies for the crucial game against the Lakers on the weekend. I didn't see you press the subscribe button to our channel. It will only take a second, and leave your opinion in the comments. Curry adjusted the volume of the podcast he was listening to, a tactical basketball analysis that usually helped him relax. While the first raindrops began to dot the windshield, he opted for an alternative route to avoid congestion on the highway. This detour took him through East Oakland, a neighborhood he knew well from his early years with the Warriors, before the franchise became an NBA dynasty. The streets were less busy due to the rain that was now falling steadily. Slowing down at a traffic light, Curry absent-mindedly observed the storefronts worn by time. An old barber shop, a corner grocery store, a laundromat with a sign flashing intermittently. His gaze wandered to a simple bus stop where a solitary figure waited, hunched against the wind that was beginning to blow. There was something familiar about that man, something in his posture, in the way his broad shoulders curved slightly forward. Curry narrowed his eyes, slowing down even more as he passed the stop. The man wore faded jeans, a simple gray sweatshirt, and a cap pulled down, as if trying to avoid being recognized. It was when the man briefly lifted his face, looking at the sky as if assessing the intensity of the rain, that Curry felt his heart race. That unmistakable profile, even glimpsed fleetingly. Jerome Davidson? The name escaped his lips in an incredulous whisper. Jerome had been a brilliant prospect. First-round draft pick, a point guard with extraordinary court vision, who shared the court with Curry for 3 memorable seasons. They were a feared duo before that fateful night in Denver, when a devastating knee twist prematurely ended Jerome's promising trajectory in the league. Curry remembered the months of rehabilitation, the frustrated attempts to return in the G League, the brief stint in European basketball that didn't work out. After that, silence. Jerome simply disappeared from professional basketball circles. Some rumors about financial problems occasionally surfaced, but Curry, immersed in his own rising career and growing responsibilities as the face of the franchise, had lost touch. And now, there he was. Not in a luxury penthouse or driving an imported car, but waiting for a bus under the increasingly heavy rain. Taken by an impulsive decision, Curry signaled and maneuvered the car to the shoulder, parking a few meters ahead of the stop. Through the rear-view mirror, he observed Jerome for a few seconds, organizing thoughts. What to say? How to approach someone who was clearly in circumstances so different from his own? The rain intensified, drumming on the roof of the Range Rover. Curry took a deep breath, turned off the engine, and opened the door. Some cold drops hit his face as he walked deliberately toward the bus stop, his heart beating strongly against his chest. Jerome looked up, his eyes initially registering only the silhouette of someone approaching. When he recognized Curry, his face went through a series of emotions in quick succession. Surprise, joy, and then, undeniably, shame. He tried to compose himself, straightening his posture and forcing a smile that didn't reach his eyes. "Steph? Man, it's been a while," said Jerome, hesitating before extending his hand. Curry ignored the formal gesture, pulling him into a tight embrace. "Jerome Davidson. I can't believe it's really you," responded Curry, stepping back to better observe his former teammate. The rain was falling harder now. "Look, there's a coffee shop on the corner. How about we talk for a bit? How long has it been 5, 6 years? Jerome appeared momentarily uncomfortable, glancing at the approaching bus. Actually, I need to catch that. 20 minutes, Curry gently insisted. Then I'll give you a ride, wherever you need to go. Minutes later, they were sitting in a quiet corner of East Side Coffee, a modest but cozy establishment. The barista, a middle-aged woman, recognized Curry but respectfully kept her distance after serving the coffees. Americano for Curry, cappuccino for Jerome. "So," began Curry after a moment of awkward silence, "how have things been?" Jerome stared at the cup for a few seconds before answering. "I won't lie, Steph. They haven't been easy." He took a sip of the cappuccino. "You know how it is. You think you're financially prepared, that you invested well, that you trusted the right people, until one day you realize you didn't." As Jerome spoke, the story of his post-NBA life unfolded. Failed investments in a chain of gyms that never materialized. A financial consultant who disappeared with a significant portion of his savings. The turbulent divorce that came shortly after, consuming what was left in legal proceedings and alimony. "Remember Mike Jeffries?" asked Jerome, referring to a financial manager who advised several players at the time. "That talk about guaranteed real estate investment? I lost almost everything there." Curry nodded slowly. He remembered the rumors about Jeffries, who had been indicted for fraud years ago. Many players were affected, especially those who didn't have the astronomical contracts of the big stars. "And now, I'm back in Oakland," continued Jerome. "I rent a room in the back of my cousin's house in Fruitvale. It's not what I imagined for my life at 35 years old, but I'm getting by." While Jerome spoke, fragments of memory passed through Curry's mind, Jerome guiding him during his rookie year, teaching him to deal with pressure and criticism. Nights after official practice when they stayed to work on shots. That incredible game against the Lakers in 2013, when together they combined for 58 points and 15 assists, prompting headlines about the most lethal guard duo in the Western Conference. "I'm doing some odd jobs as security," Jerome continued, bringing Curry back to the present. "Weekends, I train some kids at Lincoln Park Court. Actually, it's been the part I enjoy the most. I always thought about opening a small basketball school, you know? To teach fundamentals to kids who don't have access to expensive programs." Jerome's voice gained enthusiasm when talking about his work with the young people, but soon his eyes lowered again. "But who's going to trust a basketball school run by a guy who can barely pay rent, right?" Jerome hesitated, seeming to debate internally whether he should continue. Finally, with a deep sigh, he shared what really weighed on his heart. "My son, Marcus. He's 12 years old now and talented, Steph. Has a natural shot that reminds me of you in the early years." A genuine smile briefly illuminated his face before fading. "But he injured his knee in a school tournament last month. The doctor said he needs surgery to prevent chronic problems later. The basic insurance I can afford doesn't cover the procedure." Jerome stopped, abruptly, visibly embarrassed. "Look, I'm not telling you this to ask for anything. Just thought I owed explanations to an old friend." Curry observed attentively, an indecipherable expression forming on his face as an idea began to take shape in his mind. 1 week later, Stephen Curry's office in the Warriors training complex was buzzing with unusual activity. On his desk, a series of scattered notes revealed names of renowned orthopedic doctors, numbers of franchise executives, and a document with the title Second Chance Project, highlighted in bold. "Yes, Dr. Wexler, I understand your schedule is full, but this is really important." Curry was speaking on the phone with determination in his voice. We need your specific expertise in knee injuries of young athletes. Yes, exactly like that surgery you performed for Coach Kerr's son. Thank you very much. Meanwhile, on the other side of the city, Jerome Davidson arrived home after a 12-hour shift as a security guard. Exhausted, he almost didn't notice the cream envelope carefully placed under his door. Inside, he found 2 VIP tickets for the Warriors game against the Celtics, exclusive passes for locker room access, and a handwritten note. Bring Marcus. I have people you need to meet. SC30. Jerome stared at the tickets, incredulous. They were seats in the first row, the kind he couldn't dream of affording. 3 days later, Jerome and Marcus, a slim teenager wearing an orthopedic boot on his right leg, were welcomed at the VIP entrance of the Chase Center. The look of admiration in the boys' eyes when Curry appeared to greet them personally was indescribable. "Mr. Curry, I practice your shots every day," stuttered Marcus, nervously shaking the hand of his idol. "It's just Steph," smiled Curry. "And your father told me your shot is already better than his was at your age." Curry guided them through the internal complex of the arena, introducing Jerome to the current players not as someone in difficulties, but as a respected veteran, sharing stories of how Davidson had been his mentor in the early years. After the game, a tight win for the Warriors, Curry led father and son to a private conference room. There, waiting was not only Dr. Wexler, considered the best orthopedic surgeon on the West Coast, but also Bob Myers, the team's general manager, and representatives from the Curry Foundation. "I scheduled a complete consultation for Marcus with Dr. Wexler for next week," explained Curry. "All costs covered." Before Jerome could react, Curry continued, "And I want to offer you a position as an assistant coach in the Warriors youth program." Jerome turned pale, unable to process what he was hearing. "Steph, I can't accept this. This is—" "And there's more," Curry interrupted, unrolling architectural plans on the table. "The Davidson Curry Basketball Academy in East Oakland. I bought that abandoned complex near Lincoln Park. We need someone who really understands the community to lead the project." "Why?" Jerome's voice was choked. "Why would you do all this for me?" "It's not charity, Jerome. It's about justice and legacy. You taught me a lot when I was just an insecure rookie. Part of who I am today is thanks to you." Jerome remained silent, visibly struggling against pride and emotion. It was Marcus who finally spoke, his young voice carrying surprising wisdom. "Dad, you always told me that sometimes heroes need help too. That's what you teach me." Those simple words broke the last barriers. Minutes later, in an unscheduled press conference, Curry surprised journalists by announcing not only the new academy, but a comprehensive initiative to support former players in career transition. The astonished expressions of the reporters perfectly captured the sentiment. No one expected this reaction. 8 months passed. What was once an abandoned sports complex in East Oakland now pulsed with life and purpose. On the newly polished courts of the EVE Davidson Curry Basketball Academy, dozens of young people practiced shots, dribbles, and passes under the watchful eye of coaches. In the center of the main court, Marcus Davidson, completely recovered after his successful surgery, was leading a group of teenagers in a series of advanced exercises. His playing style had evolved remarkably. The precision in long-distance shots resembled Curry's, but his defensive posture and game reading were unmistakably inherited from his father. "Balance on your feet. Keep your eyes on the target," Jerome instructed, walking among the young athletes. The Academy's official uniform, with the discreet Warriors logo on the chest, gave him a new aura of authority and purpose. This was no longer the downcast man from the bus stop, Jerome radiated confidence and determination. In just 8 months, the program had grown to serve more than 300 young people from the community. Beyond the courts, adjacent rooms housed academic tutoring sessions, computers for research, and a small but well-equipped sports medical center. Former players who faced challenges similar to Jerome's found new purpose as mentors, sharing not only basketball techniques but also valuable lessons about resilience and financial planning. During the official opening ceremony, children of various ages received quality uniforms and equipment, many experiencing new basketball shoes for the first time. Families gathered in the bleachers chatted excitedly about how the Center had revitalized not only local sports, but the entire neighborhood. Near the entrance, a modest plaque revealed Davidson Campus, funded by the Curry Foundation, an acknowledgement of Jerome's original vision, placing him at the center of the legacy they were building together. Curry, present at the event but deliberately keeping away from the spotlight, observed the transformation with quiet satisfaction. A young local reporter managed to approach him. "Why didn't you publicize your involvement in this project more? It would be great publicity." Curry smiled gently. "True acts of kindness don't need spotlights. The value lies in the lives that will be transformed here." From a distance, Curry watched Jerome and Marcus on the main court, the son demonstrating a perfect movement while the father gently adjusted the posture of another young athlete. Moments later, Jerome joined Curry in the bleachers. "I'll never be able to thank you enough," said Jerome, looking at the vibrant center. Curry shook his head. "You taught me that basketball is about more than points and trophies. It's about building something bigger than ourselves. Today, I'm just returning the favor." As the day progressed, the imaginary camera slowly pulled away, revealing the complex full of promise and potential. A silent testament to how a moment of recognition and compassion can trigger waves of transformation in an entire community.